As Eilidh said, I'm here today to launch NALA's latest piece of research, which I think will be of particular interest to you as practitioners. It's case studies on numeracy practice in Ireland. And the rationale or the reason behind this piece of research sort of materialised through events like this, through talking to tutors and talking to ALOs, and listening to how they describe their work and their practice. And I found that really interesting and began to think, are there ways that we can capture this research so that we can share this research among tutors and ALOs so that it becomes a resource to everyone in the practice community? And that was really what spurred us on to start doing this, which will be a series of case studies. The case studies today are focused on numeracy practice, and they're very applied in that we discussed with the tutors how they actually carry out their practice. So there'll be tips in there from the preparation and planning stage right through to how tutors record and evaluate their practice. And in between, there'll be a lot around teaching strategies and tips on how to teach algebra, ratio, time. So it is very applied. I think it will be a very useful resource, and I think you'll find it very informative. As I said, it was to capture and document specific numeracy strategies. There is focused on numeracy, provide information on that practice, and ultimately to be a resource to tutors. We visited 5 research sites and talked to 5 tutors. They were the Alpha Learning Service in Louth and Meath ETB, and the tutor there was Philip Madden. Bray Adult Learning Centre, Wicklow, and Kildare and Wicklow ETB, and the tutor there was Cathy Orr. Newbridge Youth Training and Development Centre, the tutor there was Anne-Marie O'Neill. South Tipperary Adult Learning Scheme, the tutor there was Pat Hoban. And the third one, or the fifth one, is different in that it wasn't an ETB. It was actually the Tallaght Probation Service. And that case study focuses on the use of rideon.ie as part of a blended learning approach with vulnerable young people who have been through the criminal justice system. And I found it very interesting in that the approach that was used in Tallaght helped to manage behaviour in the classroom. So if there was disruptive behaviour in the classroom, the tutor found using the computer was a really useful way to manage the behaviour so that some learning could actually take place. So there are 5 very different case studies focused on 5. There'll be similarities across the case studies, of course there will, but because they're individual tutors, their individual practice will be different as well. That's some information we captured, as I said, on preparation and planning, their approaches to teaching and specific teaching strategy. What I'd like to do now is to stop talking and hand you over to one of the tutors who took part in the research so that he can talk you through his experience of taking part in the research and also explain to you a little bit about his practice that he carries out in Louth and Meath ETB. So I'd like to introduce you to Philip Madden.
And when I first heard about this case study, I was very interested. It gave me the opportunity to actually sit down with Daniel to go through my own teaching practices. We started at the very beginning, the planning procedure, introducing myself to the student, what I was going to do, what I was going to achieve with the student, and my end goals. Well, my primary part in this was using iPads. Now, a lot of us have touch phones, computers, but I teach numeracy, and numeracy on pen and paper is fine. But what I found was when the students had a chance to use an application on the iPad, such as a number line, telling the time, especially when it came to algebra. Algebra was a very important part to me, I found. There's an application that we could use on the iPad where the learner could sit down, they could work out an equation. They could actually use their finger on the screen to write out the equation, or they could use a pen and paper. There was no problem either way. But what would happen at the end was they would get an option for A, B, C, or D for the correct answer. If the answer was incorrect, they would click play on a video, and the video actually on the same screen would show them how to achieve the overall end result. If it went too fast, they could just reverse back on the video. That also worked for level 2. For telling the time, you would get a clock. The learner would actually use their finger to move the clock. Then the iPad itself would actually speak out the time, and you would also get a digital 24-hour format. So they were able to see an analog and digital. The number line as well, they could judge distances. So you give them a number between 0 and 100. They could move the finger up and down, see where it stops between 25, 50, 75, etc. Also, what I found was, in doing the case study, you learned your different teaching strategies, your different techniques, your different styles. The main styles that I find very important in teaching with the iPad is the hands-on, the kinesthetic approach. They always want to be able to do something. It's not about sitting there and just looking up and reading, especially with numbers. If you just see numbers on a board, it gets very boring. They want to actually immerse themselves into it. Give them an iPad, give them numbers, show them three-dimensional objects. Especially on the iPad, you can actually rotate an image, so they can actually feel the presence of that object as they move around. Another one that we all have are maps on our phone, Google Maps. Ask them to look for their house. They type in an address, up comes our address, and you say to them, well, find the distance from your house to the centre that you're in at the moment. They see a map drawn. You can see at the bottom the distance. You get them to convert it from miles to kilometres. Then you bring them back again, and you can show them a three-dimensional view of a particular city, say in New York or in London. So it gives them depth as well into realising what they're actually looking at. This process went on and on throughout the case study, and it just basically helped me understand where I started with the learner, where we went from there, how we took off, the goals that we wanted to achieve, and the group discussion and the integration that you can have by just using an iPad. Now, we know we all use pen and paper, but that is another option. The hands-on, they're all more visual for anything that they really want to do.
And I'll just finish by saying there's a method to my madness here today. What I would like, and why I wanted Philip to talk to you. I really want this piece of research to be a resource to tutors. I want it to be read and I want it to be used. That's the ultimate aim of doing this, because we're all working towards the same goal, which is to provide the best service possible to adult learners. So what I would like you to think about today is, would you be interested in volunteering to put some of the practice that is contained in this report into action? For example, taking some of the tips and maybe incorporating them into the work that you do, if you're not doing it already. I'll leave you to think about that. And then, if that's something you're interested in doing, I will then come back to you, and I will record and document your progress going along, because what we want to be able to do is measure the impact of this research, because if it's worth doing research, it's worth finding out if it's actually informing anything that you do. There's a question on the evaluation form that you'll fill in at the end of today, asking if you'd like to be part of this process, and if you do, tick that box. If you decide today it's something you're not interested in, but wake up Monday morning and have a light bulb moment, my contact details are there as well. You all have a copy of the report, but I've also put the link to the research report that's on the NALA website, so you can download the report. We also have more copies, so if you'd like some, just let me know. So thank you very much for listening today, and I hope you'll think about being part of capturing this practice in action and letting me know about it. Thanks very much.